Hi everyone, welcome to Women in Web3 podcast, where we celebrate the inspiring stories of women who are shaping the future of technology. I'm your host Kenneth Chu, and in each episode, we dive into the world of Web3 and explore the incredible work that has been done by women in blockchain, NFTs, Metaverse, and much more. As someone who is passionate about diversity and inclusion in tech, I created this podcast to showcase the achievement and challenges of women who are making waves in the industry. Our goal is to inspire more women to get involved and help to build a world that is more equitable and inclusive for everyone. So without further ado, let me just introduce our guest for today's episode. Evelina leads the marketing efforts for creators across Instagram and Facebook in Asia Pacific. Her team works with the largest creators and media to ensure Meta's top content producers are engaging with their communities and reaching their audience around the world on Meta's platform every day. Evelina is passionate about Web3 and the new skills and technology needed to build the next generation of internet. In early 2022, she came together with five other female leaders in the tech space to create Untamed, a APAC Web3 Women Plus community created to decode the world of Web3 for Women Plus in Asia Pacific. Untamed has a passionate and growing community following with over 1,200 over members to date. I'm so thrilled to have her on this episode for her to share her insight experiences with us. So it's my pleasure to welcome the co-founder of Untamed and the head of marketing creators at Meta, Evelina Lye. Let's bring her up. Hi, Evelina. Okay, let me just. Okay, welcome.
Hi, Kenneth. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am delighted to be speaking with you today.
You're welcome. And as I mentioned, right, there will be a tradition, which is every guest get to answer the question of the day before we can officially start. So, are you ready for your question of the day?
I'm ready.
All right. So, the question of the day posted by the previous guest is, what would be your biggest setback, and what do you learn from that? So, do you
Okay.
need some time to think about it?
I know. So your previous guest was Loretta, who
Yeah,
was
Loretta.
amazing, and I really enjoyed your conversation with her. So yeah, she's getting. There's a big question. The first thing that springs to my mind when I think about a setback isn't a particular event, but more a setback in terms of like a way of thinking. So I think over the years of like professional years, one of the biggest things that I've been working on that I realize has been setting me back is silencing that little voice in your head. That little voice in your head that says, it's not good enough, you're not good enough, who do you think you are? Self-doubt. And so I think I've really worked on that over very many years, and I'm still not done. There are times where you say something or you post something and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or is my point of view going to be heard? Am I going to get negative feedback? And so what I've realized is that I've had to really learn to embrace imperfection. As someone who has always strived to be perfect in every area of my life, actually embracing imperfection has been truly like liberating, in the sense that, understanding that we're human. If we live and we say things authentically, then they can't ever be wrong. And so for me, kind of like that self-awareness, realizing when I'm having self-limiting thoughts, realizing when I'm being my own worst critic, and then going, hang on a second, and seeing both sides. So that for me would be my biggest setback and what I'm working on, always working on. And yeah, just embracing imperfection and always striving to just be authentic and genuine, I think is always the best advice. The other thing that I would add to that is obviously, because I work for a social media company, there are, that comes with huge amount of opportunity, but also a huge amount of pressure, because suddenly what you may say online can go viral. And so I think that pressure, adds compounds to the own self-doubt. And so that's, I think, my biggest setback, which is what I am always looking to beat and overcome.
Wow, thanks a lot. I really like when you answer this question of the day posted, because when you said it, it doesn't felt that there's any setbacks. You are just turning the setback into something more positive, into a driving force for you to even be a better self, right? So that is what I'm hearing, and the way you put it, the way you said it, is so comfortable. It doesn't feel that you have been through any setbacks, but although these setbacks, you have really spin it over into something that became a motivation, became a driving force, or even becoming a way for you to grow, right? So this is what I'm hearing. So thanks a lot for sharing, for answering the question of the day. And now we can officially kickstart the show. So especially for those who are hearing you for the first time, could you tell us a bit about yourself? Where were you from, and how you got started in tech, in Web3, especially in artificial intelligence, AI?
Sure. I think with a question like this, there's always a long answer and a short answer. So I'll try to bridge the two and give a condensed answer that at least elaborates and gives some color. So I am a third culture kid, which I think is actually quite important to the way I see the world. So my father is Singaporean. My mother is Italian, but I grew up in London, where I currently am. Actually, I'm doing this live stream from London right now. And, growing up in the 80s in London, obviously very fortunate. It's a very multicultural place. But at the same time, I always wanted to fit in with British culture, and obviously my parents aren't from here, etc. So I think I always strive to be, like I was saying before, perfect, right? Fit in, not stand out. Have my voice blend in with other voices, because I already stood out, or, just by looking at me, I'm not English, clearly. And so that actually, I think, became a strength. Obviously, as a child, you don't see it as a strength. And it's so great now to see so many mixed kids walking, particularly in Singapore, right? Because there's so many Eurasians, but obviously, when I was a kid, that wasn't as prevalent. I obviously grew up in London, so huge exposure to culture and literature and writing, and I realized that I had a knack for storytelling, actually. And so I went on to pursue a bachelor's degree in English literature and language. Obviously, the world of technology at that point wasn't really around. I mean, it was the Nokia brick phone was the first thing, and maybe playing Tetris on your Nokia brick phone. This was the 90s. And so I went into the world not even realizing that there would be new opportunities. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to pursue this bachelor's degree in English literature. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. That was the only thing I did know I didn't, because everyone was like, you're going to be a teacher. And I was like, no, I probably don't have the best patience. So I don't think I could be a teacher, but I liked writing. That was my thing. So finished the degree, fell into a conference production job, and I think this actually made me, without realizing. And often I think my career has been full of accidental decisions that has led me to where I am. A lot of people you talk to sometimes know exactly what they want to do. From day one, they know exactly, and they know how they're going to join the dots. I didn't know how to join those dots because I didn't know what my end journey was. I still don't know what my end journey is. I just follow my path, what I'm interested in. And so a conference production job came up. this was obviously for a large media company. And at the time, this is like the early 2000s, they were making a lot of money in conferences, right? So it's a big publishing house and they needed people to do the research of these conferences. So I came in and I was literally cold calling people to like ask them what the conference should be on. But this was amazing because actually when you're doing that and you're putting yourself in a position where you have to cold call executives about business topics, you suddenly develop your confidence, because that is not something that, you know, you can do overnight. And so that was like years of like talking to the CEO of like a large, you know, brand, going, okay, I'm producing a brand marketing conference. What would you like to hear about? And I was always trying to talk to like the most senior person. So that gave me the confidence, which I didn't realize at the time, but now I realize now. Anyway, fast forward, the business was doing very, very well, and they wanted to open up a department in Asia. And I was like, me, I want to go. And, you know, I used everything, you know, because even though my father is Chinese Singaporean, I didn't grow up in Asia. And so I always wanted to spend time, you know, learning about my heritage and my, you know, where my father's from, etc. So I was like, I want to go. And I used every, you know, string that I could pull to get me over there. And it was only meant to be for 1 year, right? I was meant to basically set up the conference division in Asia and then leave after 1 year. And I just fell in love. I fell in love with the opportunity. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with just everything about it. So I'm kind of still there, you know, in and out. But yes, I'm. And so started in conference production. Again, like one thing led me to another. And suddenly I was in advertising because, again, I was exposed to very senior people. I moved into the advertising world. And that's really where my knowledge of technology accelerated, right? Because we were advising, I worked for some of the largest advertising companies in the globe, and we were advising some of like the largest brands in the world about their strategy, how they were going to engage their audiences, youth audiences. Where were, you know, audiences going? Was it social media? Was it TV? Was it radio? Was it outdoor? And I just suddenly started to realize the power of technology to connect people. I did many years in advertising. And again, it's a great industry. It's creative, it's freeing. I met some amazing people. And I think it's a really good muscle to like work in, to like really graft. Oh. And after that, I decided that I really wanted to work into tech. Like it piqued enough of my interest to realize that I wanted to work in technology. And I started applying, you know, and like everyone, I, you know, applied to lots of different companies. It wasn't like, you know, Meta was the only one. And I was fortunate enough that a position came up that I was fit for. You know, the process was rigorous. So, you know, what they say about like technology interviews is true. You have to talk to a lot of people. But I was fortunate enough that I got the job, and it's just really grown from there. And I think, you know, being in such a large technology company that literally has 3.5 billion people using their platform every day is mind-blowing. And the speed at which the company works. Obviously, it's not a small company. It's by no means a small company, but you are just exposed to so many different ideas, different ways of thinking. You know, I'm on the creator side, but obviously I'm also interested in other parts of the business as well. And I can also get to see what they're doing, and really to kind of like bring it all home. In kind of late 2021, obviously, the world of Web3 was exploding. NFTs was like, everyone was talking about NFTs. And I was like, what is an NFT? I hadn't even heard of it at that point, right? This was like mid 2021. I'd obviously got into crypto early, but I had not got into NFTs. And so a couple of us, another colleague at Meta, who ran our community division, was like, well, you know what, actually, I think there's an opportunity for a community for women that will help women decode this new world, this new emerging technology. Are you interested in like doing it with me? And I was like, yeah, why not? That sounds really fun. And so, like you said, 6 of us came together, and we're not all in tech. Like 3 of us are in tech and 3 aren't, but we're all just curious. And I think that's like the key word here, to be curious. And we built Untamed, which is this Web3 women's community, and have now over 1,200 members. And this community is really about decoding the space, bringing more representation in, ensuring that women have a voice. More often than not, women have been left behind in new emerging technologies, not just from a strategic point of view, but also from a financial point of view. They're not really benefiting. And so the community is really about, empowering women, celebrating women. We certainly not experts. We're learning with everyone. And that's really kind of what's brought me here. Obviously now, like everyone's talking about AI, I'm equally as curious about AI in that world. Again, obviously it helps that I work at Meta and I'm exposed to some of the thinking around how at least Meta is thinking about AI. So that's hopefully that answers your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, that definitely, because I just realized that we have a lot of similarities in our career, because I was from advertising. I was with MediaCorp for a while. So when you talk about like TV, radio, and all that, the print ads, that kind of resonated with me, because I started my advertising sales way back in publishing with magazines. Yeah. So when you talk about that and talk about advertising agency, which is also because we are media company, right? We work with advertising agency like Group M, the M Group, and all that. So, so these are all the familiar names when you were talking about it. Like all these are great memories. Definitely, like you mentioned, right? It's a lot of things that's going on every day. It's hectic. Like you basically work 7 days. I even know of some friends in agency. They have been working like almost 24/7, especially when there's a lot of campaigns. So really kudos to you being in the space also, and now being with such a big tech company, Meta. And I now I understand why are you so excited about technology, because you're in tech, and you personally, right, that you like information. And also that was also the reason how I got to know you, because I got to know you through, I think it was on LinkedIn. I saw you were speaking, and you were also having the hashtag of women in Web3. That's how I was like, oh, I need to connect with Evelina.
I'm so
And
glad you did. I mean,
yes,
like, and you've been like, you've been such an incredible supporter, and I equally like love what you're doing, Kenneth. Like what you're with, like the thing about, we need male allies, and I've always said there's no point talking in an echo chamber of women, right?
yeah.
There's no point talking to a room full of women about how women should be included, right? That's just singing to the converted, like that's preaching to the converted. And so, the fact that you are representing, you're literally walking the walk, is truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. And that is also the reason why I want to ask you the question, right? It's also like, why do you accept my invitation to be my guest on the Women in Web3? Because like a man being the host, hosting this podcast, and like, why do you accept my invitation?
It's exactly that. Like, I think you're such a champion. You're also just such a positive influence in the community, right? You're always there, like writing to people in the comment section. You're just really, really consistent in a really positive way. And I truly appreciate it. It's very easy to do lip service to diversity. Right, it's very easy for anyone, particularly male, to say, yes, we believe in gender equality, right? We believe in gender equity. But actually, to actually do it, to do stuff that's going to progress and move the agenda forward in a meaningful way, like you have, is actually very, very rare. So I love it, and you should absolutely be the host. You're the perfect host for a session like this.
Thanks a lot. I think it really warms my heart to really have you and also a lot of the guests that accepted my invitation to be on Women in Web3. I think that is also something that will keep me motivated and keep on going. And for you to recognize that, right? Because with your experience, with you managing your own community Untamed, and also recognizing the effort I'm putting, like you mentioned, right? It's very rare. So for me, it's very hard for me to find another male ally that is championing women. Like you mentioned, right? They are always having they always put it on their profile, but I don't see anything that they are doing to champion
Yes.
women, like what I'm doing. So I was asking myself, am I weird to be the one that is doing all these
No,
things?
you're actually having impact, and everyone else is just talking about it.
Yes, thank you so much, and I'm glad that we are on this podcast. And at the same time, you were talking about AI, right? Because that was also one of the event that you have invited, and I attended, where we talk about AI for creative artists, for creators. And I was also blown away by the way that the event was whole, and how many people was attending that event. So kudos to you and your team, having that vision, bringing people together, having that inclusivity, and that definitely is a diverse group of people, which also resonated with what I'm doing. Also, like you mentioned, it I always believe that we should not talk in just one language or just one angle. Like you talking about, like women talking about women, including women. But I realized that we have to include men on the other equation, right? Because like for partnership, even for relationship, I think it takes two hands to clap, and the world is built in this way. And that's where I realized that I cannot do it alone. I need to do with a partner. So now, like even for my business, I have a lady, a European lady, that we are coming together to build a local business community that we want to have more diverse and inclusion inside. So talking about AI, right? I before we start, I know that we have like you are very passionate about AI, about artificial intelligence. Maybe you can share with us like what makes you so excited about this topic, like AI, and where do you see it going?
So like I'm the first one to say I'm not an AI expert, right? And I think anyone who claims to be, unless they're literally building it, I think is, you need to be wary of them. Um, but I think like most people, I think like the majority of people that maybe used ChatGPT at the end of last year were blown away. Like, oh wow. The reality is AI has had this like coming out party in the last 8 months, because I mean it's actually been around since like the 1950s, like the very first original, or the very first time that the term artificial intelligence or machine learning was actually used was in the 50s. So that's a long time ago, but it's only really now that people are talking about it. And obviously the reason why is because there is the usability of using the model is unlike anything we've seen in the past, right? It's easy to use. I just need to log in and ask it a question. And I think the human-like responses at which ChatGPT and other now language models are now generating is quite mind-blowing. I think the reality is obviously 8 months, we're now in like mid-July. I think now it's becoming a little bit like we're becoming already numb to the fact, right? And
We're
I
not
realize
surprised
that
anymore, right?
we're
We're
not
not.
surprised anymore. And this is like human nature. We're always needing, like now, like ChatGPT will tell me something, and I'll be like, just going even deeper, like going, no, that's not good enough. I need another answer. So, but I've been very, I had the reason why I was able to really kind of dive into AI was twofold. One is I had already the Untamed community. We had already existed, and we were already talking about emerging technology. I also work at a large technology company. So both of those two things allowed me to like dive into AI in a bit more of a deeper way than most people. I did what you do very, very well, is I was like, right, I want to learn about this new space. I'm going to pull together an event, because actually the best way to learn about anything is by talking to people.
Yeah.
And so I pulled together this 2-part series, one of which you attended, which is all about AI and creativity, AI and consciousness. And it was great. And since then, really, I've been like speaking to more people, learning more. And that's really why I've been kind of like, I think what I should say, though, is I like to take a bit of a balanced approach with AI now. Of course, it increases productivity. Of course, it can say really lifelike things better than I can sometimes. However, there are big challenges that still haven't been solved, and that will take time for it to be solved. So I do actually now advocate for walking slowly and cautiously to build AI that is actually better for our world and humanity than to race into AI blindly and just think about all the good sides and all the upside. Because I'm realizing that actually everything has a double side, and that, yes, while there are some incredible benefits, there are also some things that we don't know and that AI developers still don't know. And so we need to walk cautiously and be, much more measured in our approach of kind of, we don't want to aimlessly just be putting AI into the world, which is actually my fear right now, that we're running before we can walk.
Yeah, I totally resonate with you and agree with you about where AI is going. Definitely, I'm a very optimistic person. So when I look into AI, it's always a positive side. But when you talk about the other side of it, because there's two sides to a coin, right? So there's always a good side, there's always a not so good side. So that's where we really need to look at it and slow down. And in fact, when you talk about ChatGPT, right? For me, if you talk about 8 months, the past 8 months, we talk about ChatGPT. For me personally, because I run a marketing agency, so I've been using AI for content creation for the past 1.5 years. I was one of the OG with Jasper AI. So I started using it. So to me, ChatGPT wasn't something new, right? And when ChatGPT came out, I think it also helped Jasper AI to even advance, and also other companies who are developing AI to move even faster, because there's someone who is running at the front, right? There's someone who's trailblazing, opening up the path, and pulling everybody forward, right? And we see there's more and more opportunity inside. But definitely there are concerns like what you mentioned about the security. Just now we talk about deep fake, about AI, about privacy, about identity, and a lot of stuff is coming up, right?
There are lots of things, and hopefully they will be solved, because I think, the genie's out the bottle. AI, we can't put AI back, but there's been lots of talk about slowing it down, and actually I am on that side. I do think it needs to be slowed down, because it will be a race to the bottom otherwise. Because obviously you mentioned content creation. That is one of the things that AI is amazing for. Right, I need a tagline, I need an image, I need a video. Like, there are AI tools now that will edit anything, right? And but at the same time, some of the copy is a bit vanilla, some of the copy isn't that original. And I'm finding now that I need to prompt more to kind of get what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Actually, the way I'm using, some of these language models is I'm using it for the initial brainstorm.
Yep.
Right, if I need to like summarize something, or I need to like just get a vague, like an idea of like what I want to say, but then I'm noticing that it can't refine it for me in the way that I need it to be refined, in the way
Yep.
that I would say it, in the way that the tone, the way, the finessing of the language. So that I don't think it's great at yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it won't be. But I think the challenge is, the last thing we want is low quality content like flooding the internet. And I literally mean flooding. I mean, already there's just so much noise on the internet. It's hard to make sense of what's good and what's high quality content that's deserving of my time versus low quality content that's just sucking up my time and actually providing no value, no entertainment value, no knowledge value. And so I am a bit concerned that we're moving into a world of just low quality content, and actually where we should be valuing like high quality creativity, originality. So hopefully we can marry those two, like we can address those challenges and find a way, because I think there's going to be a spread of misinformation with AI. How are we going to be able to tell what is real from what is fake? It's going to be virtually impossible.
Yeah, it's going to
And
be very challenging, right?
right. Hugely. And in fact, I think that's where Web3 comes in, because, there is a lot of like talk about Web3 being dead, about Web3 being over, about Web3 being nonsense. And actually, there's been this real distinction between Web3 and AI. And I think that's a mistake. I think that's, to reduce it in those simple terms is incorrect. And actually, I see both Web3 and AI supporting each other. And, with AI, we're bound to get lots more misinformation. Like, people can just create whatever they want very easily, and it's going to look authentic. Now, what can Web3 do that's going to address that? Well, Web3's got the blockchain. Web3 has these immutable ledgers. So maybe there's a way in which you can create the blockchain to help verify the information that's being created on AI.
Yep, the authenticity, right?
Totally. So maybe that's the way you marry those two, is to be able to utilize the blockchain technology that's going to sit underneath the AI. And that, so I think it's incorrect to look at the two things separately. It's also incorrect to think that Web3 is over. And I think the media likes to perpetuate these kind of clickbait headlines, because, it's what sells. It's what's going to get them their clicks. Web3 is over, the metaverse is dead, all of these things.
NFT is gone.
Nothing's ever black or white. And why wouldn't the two be able to exist at the same time, and not only exist at the same time, but benefit each other at the same time? So I'm a big proponent of the two existing at the same time, and I'm a big proponent of a measured approach in which we kind of roll out these technologies as well.
Yeah, I like the part where you talk about whether is it real or not, and that also bring me to my favorite social media or marketing guru, right, which is Gary Vaynerchuk, right? So he always say that social media expose us, right, the real us, right? But I believe that AI also exposes us, whether are we a master, are we a creative person? Because when you talk about you need to use ChatGPT or even any AI tools, right, to generate. You need to come up with a prompt. So, for example, if you are a marketing expert, you'll be able to come up with prompts that is very detailed, that is very specific for AI to work magic. And your result will be very different from someone who's just a beginner or an amateur. They may not be able to use all the jargons, all the technical terms, and the result will be different. I believe that AI will just expose more people, whether are you a master at it. For example, like the event that you did, right? There was this Singaporean rapper. He was using AI, ChatGPT, to come up with the lyrics of this song, and versus from all of us, the collective mind of the audience, of all the participant, right? So we can see a whole drastic difference between the AI lyrics and the collective mind, or even from himself, right? The creator will also shows, the creativity will show, and it's also the story behind the creation, because now we can see this artwork is generated by AI, but there's no story behind. We know that there's no story that you can build up for a AI content, right? So that's where you talk about you love storytelling, you love literature. I think this is where it comes in. Like all this
Mm,
skill set, all this creativity will not go in waste, especially in AI. It's whether your creativity can you embrace AI and to become a better version of yourself, having an accelerator. It's like a very fast moving car, like a Ferrari or a supercar, that you are moving so fast that your competitor will not be able to catch up. And that's why I like the quote where Gary Vaynerchuk was mentioning that AI will not replace you. The person who embrace AI will replace you. So this is something I think people should take note. If you are not embracing AI, you are not learning about AI and how it can enhance your productivity or even your skill set or even your reach, right? For example, like for our podcast, right? After this episode, I will be able to cut into chunks. Just like in 5 minutes, I will be able to cut this 1 hour chunks, 1 hour podcast into 15 to 18 in just 5 minutes, all because of AI. But in the past, I need to hire two virtual assistants. I need to have a video editor. I need to have a copywriter and all that. It takes weeks. That's why in my previous podcast with mompreneurs, I'm not able to generate out as many short form content as fast. So that's the
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
It's transformational, right? For people like you, entrepreneurs with many fingers and different pies, like creating content on a regular, consistent basis, the tools that are now being generated are transformational. There are also incredibly like other industries in which AI will completely disrupt. I love what you say about. I loved what you said about using using your other skills, let's say creatively, to generate prompts. And I think that is the thing with every kind of like new technology, new generation. There are new skills that you need, right? Like my grandparents didn't need the skills that I have now. In fact, if they had the skills that I have, I mean, they wouldn't be able to put food on the table. Right? They had very, very different skills. But I think, for what we need right now, you still need to be able to ask questions, probe, right? Analytics, I think, we can't trust everything that AI is telling us right now, right? The thing about AI, sometimes it will say something wrong very confidently.
Yeah, and you are convinced by it, right?
Right. So for example, an example would be I was trying to cut something down to a word count recently, and it was a very long piece of text, and I needed it to be, like under 200 words. And I put it in and I said, can you just cut this down for me, but like retain the valuable meaning? And it came back and I was like, this doesn't look like 200 words. This looks like more. And I said, is it 200 words? And it then apologized and it said, oh, I'm very, very sorry. It's not 200. And I realized that it confidently gave me the information, but it was wrong. And it does that quite often. So you do still need analytical skills. You do still need to use critical thinking. And I think the argument that critical thinking and kids will not be able to critically think isn't right. They're just going to apply their critical thinking in a different way that we didn't have to. It's like the calculator, I don't need to do all the sums in my head. I can just use the calculator, and that's okay for me because I don't need to be amazing at math. Right. So new skills for a new generation, prompting, writing, creativity. So I really agree. I really, really agree with what you just said as well.
Yeah, I like the part where you talk about the future, right? Like what kind of skills that we need. Because if you realize the traditional education system, right, is just like that. We don't really need a lot of critical thinking or analytical skills to really process. And the other thing I want to add on is the due diligence. I realize that a lot of people who are using ChatGPT, they do not have that they did not have that due diligence to really screen through, like what you mentioned, right? Is it 200 words? You just take it off the shelf
Blindly.
and just
Yeah.
blindly, right? So I think this is something that we can really recognize whether are you what do you call that? Are you good at what you are doing? Because if you're taking it blindly and passing it to someone, if it's a official professional job, right? For example, content creation. Like for example, if I generate something from AI and I get the copy and I pass it to my clients, and my clients say, oh, that doesn't sound right, right? So I have to do the screening, I do the thinking, I have to analyze, I have to screen through. It's like, if you take it as AI is like your intern, right? Your intern is getting everything from the internet, going through. But you as a manager or you as a senior person, right? You need to screen through, you need to vet through, which a lot of people are not doing that. And this is
Yeah.
something that over reliant on AI is not a good thing.
This is where, like, exactly, I think we need to see it as like our own like virtual assistant. And
Yeah.
I believe we will all soon have our own AI assistant. And our new virtual assistant, the Evelina virtual assistant and the Kenneth virtual assistant, and we'll name it something. It'll become like, it'll have like a name. Will understand my tone of voice, will understand, how I would normally say stuff, from a grammatical point of view, from a vernacular point of view. And at the moment, though, I think one of the biggest copywriting insults that you can say to someone like a copywriter right now is like, so let's say a copywriter hands their creative director a piece of work, and the creative director says that sounds like it was written by ChatGPT. Basically, meaning that it sounds so vanilla and so unoriginal that you just copy and pasted that. Like that right now is like one of the biggest insults you could say to a copywriter. And so
Yeah.
you can't just like take it blindly. You can't just copy it. And the people that are doing that, I think they're going to be found out. They're going to sound like everyone else. And you need to use it as a tool to absolutely speed up the process, for sure. Be more productive, be more efficient, because the thing that we all should value, Kenneth, is our time. Right? Time is
Yeah.
the one asset we can't buy back. Right? I can, earn money, lose money, whatever, but I can't buy back my time, the time that I want to spend with my loved ones, with my family, doing whatever, leading my life. And so anything that's going to help me speed up my time is great. But obviously, you've got to make sure that you're doing the due diligence, that you're reading it, that you're analyzing it, that you, like you said, you are a manager of your virtual assistant and you are adding your own point of view. And I think that will come. And I don't, obviously, there's a lot of talk about kids submitting essays that are going to completely run by ChatGPT, and like teachers don't know how to control it because there's an assignment and that they're worried that all the students are going to like just hand in essays written by ChatGPT. And I think that's unfair to students, and because I actually think most students and kids have a sense of purpose and are able to think and are able to put their stamp on a piece of writing. And I think the way we might have used encyclopedias or the way that we use Wikipedia for information, they'll just use it as a source. And so I think that will be where it's going to be amazing. There will be jobs that we can't even think of right now that will exist very, very soon.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you talk about kids, right, I'm very passionate about this part because I always plan ahead for the children. That's why I talk about mompreneurship and why being a mompreneur, it will helps a lot in crafting a better future for our children. And when you talk about that part where students are using ChatGPT for their essay, right? So for this part, I had a debate with a friend who was into education and all that stuff, and something that I want to share on this part, because today, right, our kids are so resourceful. They are brought into this world with iPhones, iPad, with Google, with which is their best friend. Anything they will ask Google, right? So now with ChatGPT, they will ask anything for ChatGPT. The ChatGPT is like their assistant or their nanny, right? Help me to do this, help me to do that, help me to wash my body, help me to wash my clothes and all that stuff. It's like they are nanny. So they are smart kids and they are exposed to all these resources. Why aren't they using it? And it's because the education system now is not able to catch up with the resources, the technology. And I personally feel that it's time for education system to relook into what they are doing, what they are teaching the kids. Because in fact, I can tell you, I have a 14-year-old daughter. My daughter self-taught herself to do animation, to do voiceover, to do script, to do everything, right? And even do illustration, everything self-taught from the power of YouTube. Right? So why she's not learning anything from school, and whatever she learned in school is not exciting for them anymore. So
Yeah.
this is something that I think technology wise or even the education system has to relook at it, especially like I mentioned right in the beginning, AI exposes us, and AI had already exposed education in a very open way, right? It has just
Totally. Yeah, you're and that's fascinating that your daughter is you like do and but I've heard so many examples of that. Like, someone's kid learn how to like code or build, some model just through, watching a YouTube or like literally getting their hands involved. And I think, the reality is, as a human species, we always like veer to the fearful. We always veer to like the risk averse and that kids are just going to copy. They're not going to want to do their homework, and they're just going to like take what's off a language model and just paste it there. But you know what, that isn't the majority of children I know. The majority of children I know are resourceful. They want to learn. They want to be proud of their work as well. Like there's a sense of like I used a language model to help me, and I will clearly state that I used all of the, whether I read a book, whether I watched it, like an annotation where your sources of information came from. But what I think will be one of the biggest, talking about skills, what I think will be one of the biggest skills that will be required in this new age is actually the skill of curation.
Yep.
Because like you said, we've moved, since I was a child to like children now, there's so much information. There's information on anything. Like there's too much information for any one person to like digest. But what is valuable is someone that can come in, take all of this information and distill it into valuable knowledge.
Yeah.
So curating, and I think kids that can learn to curate, that can like shut off the noise and like see what is meaningful, what is useful, what is entertaining, that will be valuable. That will be really valuable in a world. The world is moving to there's going to be information and content overload. That is happening already. And
Yes.
so someone who can curate, that's why I love curated newsletters from people that I trust, because I know that people, and let's say I follow a newsletter and I know that person has done enough research to curate a newsletter that is literally giving me the best of everything that's out there at this given time. And so that I find valuable, because actually I try to avoid all the noise, because there is too much noise. And I just want to get the information and distill that in a way that's meaningful to me.
Wow, I think you just nail it on the part, because to really kind of wrap it up for this episode about artificial intelligence, right? And being a curator and having the skill to curate things, taking things from everywhere and package it up to and propose to someone of interest, right? For example,
Yeah.
someone of your own profile, of your own dynamic. I think this is very important. And being a curator, right, is what we need now, because, like you mentioned, it's so noisy out there. And if someone can help me to do all this thing, do all this research, and if you realize, right, if you because you came from advertising, media, and all that, do you realize that there was a period of time that the internet took over the media, took over the advertisement. And like for me, I used to come from, used to work for a magazine called Motherhood Magazine, and it was named as the #1 parenting magazine. And that was before internet, that was before all the websites and blogs and stuff like that. But now do you realize that it's going through a cycle, that we are now back to curation, like how the magazine is, because we are getting all the credible people, the professional, the doctors, the expert, and curate them into a content, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, and I think that goes in hand with community.
Yes.
Because also going back to a world of communities, right? Whatever your thing is, you can likely find a community of people that, you know, think in a similar way to you, or share a similar passion. And I think that's all about curation, because you want to go to a trusted group of people that will serve you the information without and cutting out all of that noise. So I think community and curation in this world of AI is actually incredibly important.
Yeah, and talking about this, it just linked us back to women in Web3 for this podcast, because Web3, uh, if you realize, right, it's all about community building. It's all about community coming together, gathering of similar interests, and with these curation skills, right, I believe that you mentioned this is going to be the skill set for the future, for any future job, is to be able to curate content for a particular community, especially in Web3. Because
Yeah,
Web3 is about interest, like for a certain NFT project, for a certain startup projects with a purpose, with a certain, like for what you have built for Untamed, right? You guys has you curate content according to your community, and you being a great curator, right? Because you know, you have a diverse knowledge of
yeah,
tech, of
yeah.
AI, of every part of the internet, or even tech, right, of social media. That's why you're able to create that.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think in a AI is a tool, right? And if I can use that tool to supersonic like what I'm writing or what I'm producing, then like why not? Why not use it? But obviously, I need to be able to like curate, put my lens on it, make sure that what it's saying is correct, check it, fact check it. You know, there are obviously other industries in which AI will completely, you know, transform healthcare. I think AI is going to revolutionize healthcare like we can't even imagine. And I think that would be amazingly positive for many people around the world who might not have access to doctors, or, you know, where they can actually diagnose certain illnesses before they need to go and see a doctor. So I think there are so many different layers to AI, and I think content creation is one of them. But I think yes, curation is huge, and seeing it as a tool, it doesn't remove the need for the human. Basically, like we still need the human, we still need the humanity. It is a tool that will supersonic. It's like our engine, and we need to see it like that.
Yeah, I totally like it. Where you say it, like really speed up, and to be able to use the shortest time, right, to give the most value in terms of content. Even like use when you serve your community, right? If you can speed up everything that you can do in a week into a day, right, you can add even more value to your community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, but again, like I could go back to like making sure that it's not overload for the sake of overload. Like there's an amazing, just like, you know, talking about, you know, people that I truly admire in the industry. There's an AI scientist. His name is Max Tegmark. He works at MIT. He did an incredible podcast with Lex Friedman, and he talks about like, again, this balancing act, like as humanity and you know, living in a capitalist society, there's always like the need for more, faster, cheaper, greater, bigger. And actually, what for? Right? Like what are we trying to serve here? Like, and so going back to the what for, why faster, why greater? Yes, if it allows me to serve my community in a meaningful way, then great. If it's about like just getting information out there, like for the sake of it, to like try to sell more, then no. So, and so I really recommend, if it's a long podcast, but do listen to him, because he talks about, he really talks about making sure that AI is built with humanity. And I think that's what I truly am aligned with as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with it, because when the moment I know AI is going to help so many people, even help those that are not able to speed up their stuff, right? Or even find jobs inside. Basically, AI can help a lot, like in medical, even in tour, in travel, in a lot of ways, right? I believe that AI is going to help a lot of us, and how to balance it and to use it for the good of for humanity. I think that is
Right.
very important. So our time really flies. I really love our episode. Like I mentioned, right, we can talk for hours and hours, because this is a huge topic. And I think something that you mentioned in the very beginning, right? AI should not be standalone. It's in fact it's in under the whole umbrella of Web3. And with AI, I believe that the other parts of Web3 will move even faster. And like you mentioned, this is something that every new technology goes through. It's a wave, it's a pattern, it's a cycle that it always go through. Like we have seen in 2021, we talk about NFT, 2022, we talk about Metaverse, you see the ups and downs, talk about crypto, the same thing. And now with AI, so what would you say that will be your forecast for next year in 2024? What do you see that's going to happen after AI?
I mean, I see this AI wave continuing, right? I think, there's enough momentum, there's enough like money going into these AI companies that are building. So I think the AI wave will continue. What my prediction will be is that we're going to start to see some challenges with AI, right? Not just kind of like the amazing utility right now, but I think we're going to see a proliferation of misinformation. And so I think public opinion about how we should start treading and using AI will be even more of a like debate. And so that is what I predict. I also, like you, believe that AI will hugely accelerate some of the Web3 world. And like things always go in cycles. Things go in cycles, as well as the media always likes to like paint things in a world where things are black and white, and they don't always are. And the things exist, and things have moments of like hype, and things have moments where they're just plateauing, or they're like going through a period of rebuilding. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So my prediction is AI continues, but we're going to start to see maybe just some like challenges, and we're going to have to address them collectively about how we're going to solve those in order to truly utilize the positive benefits of AI.
Yeah, when you say about that, right, like the challenges and all that, that reminds me of any technology, any software. There's always a version one, a version two, or version 1.1 and all that. I think AI is just having that version one. We are going to soon have a version 1.1, or even metaverse, or even NFT, because of all the mistakes or all the things that we have not looked into. People are looking into it, like for crypto, for fintech, for any technology that we know in Web3, right? So everything has to go through a improvement to the next version.
Hugely. I mean, look, as the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. And we're really impatient as a human species. Like, we want it now. Like, where is this? But it's going to take time. Um, but what we're seeing in the last few years is just these new technologies are starting to emerge, where we've definitely starting to flip a chapter on Web 2. Are we fully in Web 3? Of course we're not. That might not be for another 10 years. But we're starting to see a movement, right? And that is, if you're acutely aware of that, you'll realize that there is a shift.
Yes.
And things don't happen overnight, and there'll be iterations. And before we know it, like you said when we were chatting, that you just watched a video of a woman using AI, like how she would use AI for a day,
Yes.
like. And that there will be a world in which very soon we're probably using lots of AI tools throughout our day without even realizing.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because we've seen movies, we've seen movies using AI, or even in like Iron Man using Jarvis, using all his AI assistant, right, helping him in his daily work, or even helping him to analyze his whatever that he's doing in his life. Even for dating tips, right, also asking his AI. So I think this is also very important for a lot of people to take away. And thanks, Evelina, for sharing your thoughts from AI. Really had a great conversation. So I remember that you posted something about Meta AI. Maybe you can talk about it to share with the
Sure.
audience.
So I'm not involved in this in the Llama 2 project, but obviously I work for the organization. Llama 2, Llama's been in the works for Llama 1, the original, has been in the works for ages, but it just was never public. So here's Meta's AI version. Obviously, Meta has a foundation of AI. Like the algorithms are what's working behind the scenes in your Facebook feed. The algorithms and AI is what's learning and serving you content on IG, right? There's AI throughout everything. It's just obviously that the general public don't see it like that. They're just seeing a feed. Either way, there's been AI models. Llama was kind of private, but just yesterday it was announced that Llama 2, which is Meta's AI programmer model, will be open source, which is huge, which basically allows any developer to use some of the AI algorithm, the Meta AI algorithm, to build on top. So for me, this just signals a few things. One is the AI wave is just going to grow and grow and grow. We're going to see more and more AI tools. It's great that it's open source. Actually, it means that there are other developers external to Meta that are going to be able to check the thing, right? So we're moving into a much more decentralized way of working, which is actually the tenet of Web3.
Yep.
Web3 is all about decentralization. And so now we've got Llama 2, which will be decentralized in many ways, open source. So I'm excited by it. It's free to download. So if you're interested, you can just go onto the llama2.com site and download it, play around with it. Obviously, and there are different versions, like different sizes and different use cases for it. But that's what's happening. That was just announced in the last 24 hours. So it's very hot off the press. And I think this just signals a huge flag to really what AI, the potential of it, and where it's going to go.
Wow. So because when I saw this post, I was like, wow, it just make it in time for our podcast, right? It's just so timely that we are talking about artificial intelligence, and with this open source for developers, I believe that the landscape would start to change, and there will be more amazing things. As you know, right? Human beings, we are all creators. We all create things, and now with AI, I think it will speed up. It will even build a better environment for us because it's all for good, right? So thanks a lot for sharing. And now it's your turn for you to share what is your question of the day for the next guest, right?
Okay.
So because you have already answered the question of the day, so what will be your question of the day
Okay.
for the next guest?
Okay. I'm a curious person, and I'm always looking for the next great podcast or book. Doesn't have to be about technology. So my question to the next guest is, what is their favorite podcast or book that they've listened to or read recently, and why?
Okay, so what is your favorite podcast or book, and why, right?
Yeah, they've listened to or read, and why? Because I'm like, that's one of the first things I always ask. I'm like, oh, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Like, it's like a Netflix recommendation. Like, oh, you should watch that. And so I want to know what the next guest is listening to or reading.
Good, good. So, can you just take a look at the question of the day, which is what is your favorite podcast or book, and share with us why, right?
Yes.
So, is that the correct? Okay, so this question of the day goes out to the next guest in the next episode, which is next week. And thanks a lot, Evelina, for sharing with us. About artificial intelligence, your thoughts, your background, and also why you're in this space and why are you so excited about AI coming into our lives and how we can benefit from it and what is the future all about it. So before we wrap up, right, maybe you can share with the audience, right, how can they get connected with you?
Very easily. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Evelina Lye. I don't think there's another Evelina Lye. And connect. Yeah. Let's build the community. Feel free to ping me with any questions or messages. But I'd love to stay connected.
Wow, wow. Thanks a lot, Evelina, for sharing with us. And also, for those who are interested, you can connect with her on LinkedIn, Evelina Lye. You can connect with her. She's really, really wonderful. When I first connected with her, she was like so welcoming, and we chatted. And this has been wonderful. So once again, thanks, Evelina, for sharing with us all the golden nuggets, all your thoughts about AI. I'm interested. I'm so excited that we have talked a lot about that. And like I mentioned, right, we definitely have a lot of things to cover, a lot of the things to talk about. But thanks a lot for your time, and for those who are watching to now, and for those who are watching replay, thank you very much for watching Women in Web3, and I shall see you guys in the next episode. See you guys. Thanks, Evelina. Take
Thanks so much.
care. Bye bye.